Alright, so as a new immigrant to Canada, especially Ontario, one of the most important documents you can get to take care of your health is your health card or your OHIP document. My wife and I just got our health cards delivered in the mail and I'm excited to share the process with you. So in this video, I'll share with you how you can too get your Ontario health card as a permanent resident, as someone who has applied for permanent residence and waiting for your application to complete processing, or as a work permit holder. For each of these three cases, we'll cover eligibility requirements, documents that you will need to apply, how and where to apply, and how long does the entire process take and when you can get coverage. So let's begin. Alright, so before we begin, whether you're a permanent resident or an applicant or a work permit holder, you are going to need a certain set of documents in order to apply for the OHIP card. So let's look at these documents. So I'm going to take you to this page. This is the official ontario.ca page, and it has all the documents that you need to get a health card for various scenarios. So for any scenario, as it says right here, you will need three separate identification documents. Photocopies are not accepted. All right, so you'll need originals. Number one is an original one that proves your Canadian citizenship or OHIP eligible immigration status. So basically any document that proves your immigration status. Second, an original printed or digital one that proves you live in Ontario. So this is a document that validates your primary residence in Ontario. And finally, an ID proof. So we are going to take a look at all these documents for each of the three cases that we discussed. So let's begin. So as a permanent resident, it's a fairly easy process to get your Ontario health card. My wife became a permanent resident 3 months ago and she applied for her health card last month and she got it delivered in the mail in about 3 weeks. So as soon as you become a permanent resident, you don't have to wait. You can immediately apply for your health card and you can immediately start using that coverage as long as you meet the eligibility criteria and you provide the right documents. So let's look at the documents you need to get your Ontario health card as a permanent resident. So let me take you back to this page. First document you have to provide is OHIP eligible immigration status. So if I scroll down further, for permanent residents, you have a list of these 4 documents from which you can provide. You just have to provide any one of them. So as a new immigrant, you can just provide your permanent resident card if you have received one. And if you have not received the PR card yet, you're still waiting on it, then you can provide the confirmation of PR document or your COPR document. So any one of these documents will work as proof of immigration status. Next up is the proof of residency in Ontario. Basically, you need to prove that you are a resident of Ontario. So any document that has your name and address listed in it should work as proof of residency. So on this website, if you scroll down under proof of residency in Ontario, there is a huge list of documents from which you can select. And basically you just have to provide one document, so provide whatever you can. A few examples of documents that you can provide include your lease agreement with your name as the primary occupant, your Ontario driver's license if you have one, if you have a photo card or utility bills under your name, your bank account statements. If you've been employed, then your salary slips that have your address listed in them. If you filed taxes before, then your income tax statement, phone bills, credit card statements, etc. Basically any official document that has your name and address listed in it. And you have to provide the original. So either you can take a printed original document or a digital version, but don't take photocopies. Alright, so here's a quick tip for new permanent residents, new immigrants who just landed in Ontario, and you probably don't have a proof of residency in Ontario. So this was the case for my wife. She became a permanent resident on May 28, 2022. That's when she did her first landing. And now she's living with me. So basically she has an address here in Canada, but that address is listed under my name. So she couldn't really use the lease document that was listed under my name as proof of residency. So this is what she did. She opened up a checking account in a bank. It's fairly easy to open a checking account. You don't need a SIN number for that. You don't need a significant balance to open a checking account. Just walk into a bank with your immigration documents and your valid ID proof, and you can get your checking account open right away. Now, while opening the account, she listed her current Canadian address, which was basically the address of this apartment, as her primary address. So now her bank account got opened up with this address as her primary address. Now she can go online, print an official bank statement from her online banking website, and then she can use that bank statement as proof of residency, because that bank statement is going to have her name and this address listed as her primary address. So as a new immigrant, this is one of the easiest things you can do to get a proof of residency. Open a checking account in a bank, get the official bank statement printed or a digital version, and make sure that that bank statement has your name and address listed in it, and that will work as a proof of residency when you apply for your health card, right? Finally, the third document is the ID proof. So it's fairly straightforward. Just take your passport. That works as the best ID proof. Any valid document that has your signature will also work as an ID proof. And on this website, under identity documents, you can find a list of documents that you can choose from. But the best document you can use is your passport. All right. So just to recap, 3 documents needed as a permanent resident applying for Ontario Health Card. Number 1, your immigration status. So your permanent resident card or your COPR document. Number 2, your proof of residency. So any of the documents from the list that I showed you before. And if you don't have, just go with the bank account. And number 3 is your ID proof. All right. Let's look at the next one. So let's say you're in Canada and you've applied for permanent residence, no matter what program you've applied under, and you're waiting on a final decision on your application. Under certain situations, you can still qualify to get your OHIP card as long as you provide the right documents. So let's look at the documents. Number 1 is proof of immigration status. So if I can take you back to this page, under proof of immigration status for applicants for permanent residence, you need to prove that IRCC has issued a letter to the applicant, obviously on the IRCC letterhead, which confirms that you meet the eligibility requirements to apply for permanent residence in Canada and you have not been denied. So basically, during the final stages of your application to permanent residence, while you are in Canada, if everything goes smooth, you will receive a letter from IRCC that's going to look something like this. As you can see, it says this refers to the application for permanent residence you made under the spouse or common law partner in Canada class. And this could be any category, by the way. I'm just taking an example. And it says it has been determined that you meet the eligibility requirements to apply for permanent residence. So I'm actually taking a snapshot from an actual letter that was issued to an applicant. I just Googled eligibility letters. So this is just an image which is cropped out from an entire letter. So this letter will obviously be on an IRCC letterhead and would be addressed to the applicant. And you can use this as proof of your immigration status when you are an applicant in Canada who's applied for permanent residence and is waiting on a final decision. All right. So this will work as document 1, proof of your immigration status. For the second document, identity proof, you can again use your passport. And for the third document, proof of residency, we already went over it. Provide whatever you can from the list that I just showed you. And just a quick note, if you are an applicant for permanent residence in Canada and you've received your acknowledgement of receipt, you've not received the eligibility letter, but just the acknowledgement of receipt, that might not work as proof of immigration status. So you are probably not going to get your health card just using the AOR document. Wait for the eligibility letter and then you can apply for your Ontario health card, right? So if you're a work permit holder, you can still get the Ontario health card. You'll just have to provide the same 3 sets of documents: the ID proof, the proof of residency in Ontario, and a proof of immigration status. So now for ID proof and proof of residency, we already looked at those requirements. The list of documents is right there on the website. So provide whatever you can from that list, 1 document for each. And when it comes to proof of immigration status, then let me show you the instructions. So if I can take you back to this page, under other immigration status, there is a section dedicated to work permit. It states you have to provide proof of full-time employment for an employer in Ontario. Basically, you have to provide an original or digital document, contract or letter on employer company letterhead signed and dated by the employer. And that letter should clearly state that you're working full-time, your title, your start date, and that the employer intends to employ you for a minimum of 6 months. So basically, you will provide your offer letter or employment letter that's going to have all these criteria. Now, if you're a permanent employee, you don't need to meet the 6-month criteria, because if you're a permanent employee, it's already implied that you will be working for longer than 6 months. But if you're a contractor working full-time, then your employment letter should clearly state that your employer intends to employ you for at least 6 months. Okay, only then you'll be eligible to apply for OHIP. So provide your offer letter or employment letter with all these criteria. Provide your work permit that must have been issued to you by IRCC, along with the other ID proof document and the proof of residency in Ontario document, and that should make you eligible to get an Ontario health card. Right? So you have to apply at your nearest Service Ontario Centre in person. So you'll collect all the documents that we talked about and simply walk into your nearest Service Ontario Centre and then apply with those documents. Now, when you apply, they are also going to ask you to fill out another form, which is the registration form for your OHIP coverage. And you can also find this registration form on the website. I'm going to link it in the description below, and you can actually fill it out beforehand and take it along with the rest of your documents. It's just going to save you some time. Even if you don't, just take the rest of your documents, and at the service counter, when you get your number, the professional is going to ask you to fill that form right there at the counter anyway. Okay, so it's completely your choice, but it's available. You can fill it out beforehand. Now, when you go to a Service Ontario Centre, you can walk in without an appointment, but if you do that, make sure you go early in the early hours, say 9 to 11 a.m. That's when the rush is little, so you might escape large lines and get done pretty early. So once you're done with your application at the service counter, the service professional is going to hand you a document. This is basically your health document, a temporary one, which you can still use immediately after you walk out of the Service Ontario Centre. So this is a temporary document given to you which you can use until you get your actual health card delivered in the mail, and that takes about 3 to 4 weeks. So until you get your health card, let's say you have a medical emergency, you can still use this temporary document. What I'm trying to say is you will have coverage right away. As soon as you get your OHIP document, you will have coverage. And then in 3 to 4 weeks after getting this document, you will actually get your health card delivered to you in the mail. And that will complete the process. So as a new immigrant, you'll also need to apply for your social insurance number, which is your SIN. You'll need that number in order to start working, get paid, or apply for a credit card or a loan. So SIN is essential. So my wife applied for a SIN a couple weeks ago, and I've shared that entire process in this video that should be showing up on the cards here, and it's linked in the description below. Check that video out to learn all about the SIN application. That's been it. My name is Suyash. This is Hit Submit in Canada. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.